Welcome back to Twin Oaks Farm Poultry. Thank you so much for joining us here on our YouTube channel. We are continuing our countdown to meat bird move-in day. In this video, we are combining several of our tips for preparing for meat birds moving in. We get really excited about chick move-in days because when you move these little birds in, they're so much fun to watch, but they are totally vulnerable and totally dependent on our flock management for their well-being. So we do take all of this preparation, all of the planning and the action steps to get ready for them. We take it really seriously because when we do this part thoroughly, it really helps us as we strive to keep those chicks warm, to keep them in the right temperature zone, to keep predators out of the barn. So we're trying to do all these things ahead of time that just really make a successful start for our flock. And hopefully with a successful start, we'll end up being able to have that flock grow well and finish well. So we are combining tips 17 through 20 for two reasons. For one thing, all four of these tips have to do with the same subject matter, which is basically heat lamps or brooder lamps. And here in our community, this is an exciting weekend. So we have the Waterford Community Fair in rural Southeast Ohio, USA, and it starts today and it goes through the weekend. So most years we're active in the fair as participants. We have things entered in the fair. This year we don't, but we still know we're going to want to come and go and enjoy the fair as it goes through the weekend. And actually it is exciting that my husband's paternal grandfather is the parade marshal, and I got the opportunity to write the biography for him being parade marshal, the biography that they put in the fair book. So those things are neat about the fair this year. We did talk about trying to do a float in the fair parade, promoting our farm here locally and our egg sales and our poultry sales, but you know what, there's just other things happening in this season of life that need our attention more. And so we didn't do that, but that's okay. We still want to plan to enjoy the fair. So we are combining tips 17 through 20 right here. Thanks for sticking with me through that introduction to get into this. I appreciate it. And we'll get through this video and give you some tips on getting heat lamps ready for your flock. And then we'll be back on YouTube with videos on Monday, August 21st, 2023. And you know, we'll be moving chicks in next week. So they are scheduled for Wednesday, August 23rd to come in. Sometimes, you know, it's a day off or something. We're at the hatcheries schedule. We're on the hatcheries timeline, I should say, for when the chicks actually hatch. But anyway, so they'll be moving in next week. So that you'll be here with us. We'll do a video. So anyway, let's talk about supplemental heat for meat chickens. And I want to use an acronym to help us have some reference points to remember these tips with. So let's think of the word light in its improper spelling, L-I-T-E. And so we're going to use L for lamps, as in get the lamps and get whatever goes with the lamps that you need to have them ready to go. So L for lamps. We're going to use I for installation. There are different ways to hang your lamps in your housing setup. So put the lamps in place and actually figure out how they're going to attach to whatever in your chick's housing system. And make sure that that's something that is going to be helpful for your system and useful for you. Sometimes the way lights are installed or attached into the housing system can be kind of a burden instead of a blessing, and we want it to be a blessing, not a burden. We don't want it to be a pain in the neck to work around. So get it installed, make sure you can work around it, make sure you're okay with it. So I for installation. T, test out the lamps, and this is pretty simple. Plug them in, make sure they work. And so if you find that the lamps do not work, then you know you can get to the bottom of what's the problem. Is it in the fixture? Is it in the bulb I have? Is it in the cord I have? Is it in the plug or the power source? I'm looking at Mama Hen and Oakley Chick. so there you go. So T, test your lamps. And E, let's think of electrical safety. So lamps, installation, test it all out, electrical safety, okay? And we'll try to cover those things here quickly and give a visual reference on each and then get it wrapped up. So here are some heat lamps. So when we go to buy heat lamps for a brooder space or for our chickens, this is basically what we're going to buy. Yes, they are dusty because they live in a barn. So, but anyway, heat lamps are going to have, and make sure, like here, I don't know if y'all can see it, on the label, can y'all see this? Brooder, it says brooder heat. You'd be looking at it upside down from where you're at though. But it has a ceramic socket right there, an aluminum shield, a guard here, okay, a hanger here. Here's the socket. We have a good cord. There's no fraying where it fastens into the socket. A good cord and a good plug. Again, no fraying out here. Whoops. Let's try that again. No fraying where it attaches here. A two-prong cord. And we have plugged these into extension cords. That's probably not the best idea. It's better if you can plug it right into the plug, right into the outlet. Also, be aware when we buy heat lamps, they typically do not come with bulbs. You will have to buy them separately. There are different colored bulbs. I'm not going to elaborate on that in this video. There are different pros and cons and theories to using different colors of heat lamp bulbs. You do notice it's a 250 watt, 120 volt bulb. So that's some serious power, pulling some serious electricity, and it is going to create some serious heat. So be mindful of that, because I'm saying to you, don't touch the bulb when it's on. Do not touch the aluminum shield when the bulb is turned on. Don't touch the socket. It's hot. It's really, really, really hot. Don't touch it. Okay, so y'all know that, but seriously, it really, really gets hot. And 250 watts is, you know, is high wattage, and it's got a lot of volts going through it. So so that's your heat lamps. So L for heat lamps. Get the heat lamps. Get them ahead of time. Like, don't go to this store and buy chicks and buy the heat lamp at the same time and bring all that home and put in the heat lamp. Have the heat lamps ahead of time. In fact, when we get closer, like we believe our chicks are coming in on a Wednesday, Tuesday night, we're going to turn everything on in the brooder. The heat lamps will be on, so that if we get them Wednesday morning first thing, when it's 62 degrees maybe, and it's cool, it's 30 degrees too cool for birds, 35 degrees too cool for brooding chicks. If we're at like 60 degrees, we want their brooder to be warm when we set them down into it, because they're going to be in little boxes where they're all confined and no heat is escaping virtually. So they're going to be warm from all the body heat that's being produced in there, and we want to put them down into a warm place. So we'll turn our heat lamps on. So have your lamps, have the bulbs for them, have them in place, have them ready to go. So that's L, lamps. I, install them. What's that going to mean for you? Well, you got to hang them somehow, or you have to clamp them in somehow. So I do want to tell you that's something with heat lamps. Every time we've bought heat lamps, they come with another piece that's like clamped onto this socket out here, and it's kind of an arm that comes up and out into a joint, and then, you know, kind of continues down and has a clamp. And it's like that clamp could go onto something like this, and that heat lamp would be hanging out here, and you could make the bulb shine down there. Honestly, our housing systems, we've just never had one that those clamps worked with. So every time we buy heat lamps, we pull the clamps off and we just use the heat lamp like that. And the arrangement we have settled on is that we really like to suspend the heat lamps from the ceiling, just like that. So that is fastened up into our rafters, and we have it on a chain that's suspended. And down here we have an S-hook that hooks into the chain and hooks into that piece of our heat lamp, okay? So that's what's going on there. So figure out the way you want to put them in your barn and get them installed, and see how that works, and see how that is going to be for you to work around, is what I want to say there. So L for lamps, I for install them. We're up to T for testing them. So visual reference on that. Testing them is easy. Plug them in. Plug them in and make sure that they are working, just like that. So that's what we do to test them. We just plug them in and we see that they come on and we see that everything is in working order, and it is. When you first plug in heat lamps, you are going to get a little bit of a smell like burning, like something getting singed. And we've experienced that with all of the heat lamps that we've had. And some of that is, the buildup of dust on our heat lamps that have been used previously. But some of that is also, you've got this concentrated beam of light that's hot shining down on tiny pieces of shaved wood, So you can get a singed smell. We recommend trying to have the heat lamp suspended at least 18 inches above the bedding material, if possible. I think we've had instances where, to make our birds comfortable, we've had to have them a little lower, but aim for that. Aim for keeping them where they actually can singe the bedding if they're too close. We've observed that as well. So that's what we recommend. Get your lamps, install them, test them. Oh, and then E was for make sure you have enough electrical power to safely power them. So we're getting into things here like how many amps are you pulling? How many amps can you supply? I am not an electrical expert and I can't explain it well here. So please consult with an electrician to make sure you have enough power for everything that you want to supply power to. Our building is actually set up for 20 lamps if we need them, and that would max out our electrical capacity in our building. So try to consult with an electrician and make sure that you're within your electrical capacity with the lamps that you want to run. So that's our tips, 17 through 20. Get your lamps, install them, test them, and make sure you have a situation that's electrically safe. Thanks for joining us. Please join us again. God bless y'all.